1 minute 30 seconds away. It does look like we have some cloud cover there in Baikonur, so you may see it disappear into the cloud deck pretty quickly. That first stage going to light up the night sky, though. It's going to burn for the first several minutes before those 4 strap-on boosters break away at just about 1 minute and 58 seconds into the flight. One minute and counting.
1 minute to liftoff. Contact. Copy. Everything is fine on board. We're feeling well, and we're ready for launch. Copy. Vehicle to internal power.
And you see that first umbilical separating. And now keep an eye on the one a little bit lower down. Once that separates, you know we're 15 seconds away from liftoff.
Auto sequence initiated.
Auto sequence start. Second umbilical separating. T-minus 15 seconds. You can see the engine starting to fire.
Second umbilical.
The first stage ramping up.
Engine turbo pumps at flight speed. Engines at maximum thrust.
And liftoff.
Liftoff.
Oleg Skripochka, Jessica Meir, Hazza, Ali, Mansouri leaping forth from Gagarin start on their way to the International Space Station.
15 seconds in flight. First and second stage thrusters are operating just fine. Copy. Everything is fine on board the Soyuz. We're feeling great. Copy.
We're going to continue to get these translations throughout the flight. Everything's still sounding good with that first stage. You can see the 4 strap-on boosters lighting up the night sky. Soyuz delivering 930,000 pounds of thrust with that first stage, the 4 boosters and the single core engine. You can see them punching through the cloud layer there. The first stage measures 68 feet in length, 24 feet in diameter, burning liquid fuel for the first 2 minutes of the flight.
Pitch, your roll are nominal.
So pitch, yaw, and roll referring to the orientation of the vehicle. Nominal, a word you'll hear a lot. That just means everything is proceeding normally. Continuing to get good first stage indicators from the Soyuz. Things looking good inside the cabin. You can see Jessica Meir at the top of your screen. Oleg Skripochka at the bottom there in the commander seat.
First and second stage thrusters are operating nominally.
A little over a minute and a half into the flight, everything continuing to go well with the Soyuz crew. They've already well exceeded over 1,100 miles an hour. The next things we're going to be looking for is the escape tower jettison, and then the first stage strap-on boosters separating. And they're getting a great view. You can see that choreograph across the first stage. Strap-on boosters have separated along with that tower. Now the core engine continuing to fire. The Soyuz already at an altitude of about 28 statute miles.
Nominal. Copy. Everything is nominal on board. We are feeling great. Copy.
So at this point, the Soyuz traveling in excess of 3,300 miles per hour. You can see those 4 strap-on boosters continuing to descend. The Soyuz powered now by that core stage engine.
160 seconds into the flight. Copy. Yes, we see that the launch route jettison is also confirmed. Affirmative.
The launch shroud protecting the Soyuz during that initial climb through the atmosphere has been jettisoned. This is actually a view from on the Soyuz spacecraft itself. You're looking down at one of the folded up solar arrays. We're over 3 minutes now inside. The rocket's altitude already 48 miles in height. At this point, traveling in excess of 4,700 miles per hour.
200 seconds into the flight. Second stage thrusters are operating nominally.
So everything continuing to go well with that core stage. The core stage booster of the Soyuz, 56 feet in length, 13.5 feet in diameter, has a single engine with 4 fuel chambers. And it provides between 178,000 and 220,000 pounds of thrust, depending on the altitude, for its 3 minutes and 28 seconds of operation. This is going to continue to burn until about 4 minutes 43 seconds into the flight. Then Soyuz is going to use what's called a hot stage technique.
Copy all. Everything is nominal on board. We're feeling great. Copy.
Reports everyone doing well on board, everything continuing to go well. Again, that hot stage technique will actually see the third stage start to fire while the second stage is still connected. It has a lattice-like structure between the two stages, allowing the exhaust to escape, and that allows then the core stage to drop away, with the third stage already powering the Soyuz into its initial orbit.
Your launch vehicle control system parameters are nominal. We are standing by for GECA 2. Second stage shutdown.
And standing by for that third stage ignition. And confirmation, second stage has shut down and separated. The Soyuz now being powered by that third stage engine.
Copy. GECA 2 command, cutoff command went through, and everything is nominal on board. Copy all.
Everything continuing to proceed smoothly. The core booster separating at an altitude of about 105 miles in height. It's about 170 kilometers. Now being propelled by the single engine of the third stage. It provides about 67,000 pounds of thrust and is going to burn for a little over 4 minutes. It will be the final phase of the rocket's journey into orbit.
Third stage thrusters are operating nominally.
Again, this is a view looking back towards the end, and that'll be cutting in and out this an animation of what's taking place right now. That third stage engine going to continue to fire and carry the vehicle into orbit. This is actually a view. You're seeing one of the folded up solar arrays. That, and along with a series of antennas, will deploy shortly after the Soyuz makes its initial orbit. We're still about 2.5 minutes away from the shutdown and separation of the third stage. Everything continuing to go smoothly for this ride, taking off right on time at 8:57 a.m. Central Time. Everything looking good so far with the crew. Oleg Skripochka, Jessica Meir, and Hazza Ali Mansouri inside the spacecraft, well on their way to orbit.
400 seconds into the flight. The spacecraft is stable.
$450.
450 seconds into the flight. The flight is nominal.
We're approaching 8 minutes since liftoff. At this point, the vehicle traveling at a velocity of over almost 13,500 miles an hour. We're just under a minute away from third stage shutdown and separation. We'll see the engine on the third stage cut off and separate, delivering the Soyuz spacecraft into its initial orbit.
490 seconds. The spacecraft is stable. Copy all. Everything's nominal on board, and we are feeling great. Copy. 500 seconds. Everything is nominal. GK 3 command. Cut off.
And getting a spectacular view there. You see the third stage separate and fly away.
And Sarmat, congratulations. We're handing you over to Moscow. Sarmat, Moscow.
Moscow station, face the ground.
Go ahead.
Go ahead and face the ground.
Go ahead, Moscow. How are you feeling? We are standing by for your report on the third stage separation. Everything was nominal and we are feeling great. And we are working from pages 35 through 39. Copy all. And we are standing by for the first measurement for page 36.
And just like that, 3 new crew members now in outer space, the third stage separating, and we did get a good report that all of the solar arrays and antennas have deployed. So a spacecraft in good health now in orbit around planet Earth. Russian cosmonaut Oleg Skripochka, NASA astronaut Jessica Meir, and your United Arab Emirates astronaut Hazza Mansouri now in outer space and beginning their chase down of the International Space Station.
Copy all. It's closed. RPV 1 and 2 flow sensors are closed. Copy all. That's wonderful.
And oversight of the spacecraft now going to be transferring over to the Russian Mission Control Center just outside of Moscow. It'll be this team right there in the room. And again, we did get confirmation that both solar arrays and all of the rendezvous and docking antennas have deployed. So a spacecraft in good health along with the crew now ready to make the 6-hour journey towards the space station.
Sarmat, we can see the image. And we're standing by for the first measurement for page 36 from you. Moscow, this is Sarmat. RDR was nominal and on time. Copy. RPVs are closed. Copy. Moscow, this is Sarmat 2. I'm ready to report the first measurement. We are ready, Sarmat 2. 17:08:05. SR pressure is 824. Bow pressure is 821. 18.1, 19, 269, 20, 23, 21, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 7, 19.6, 18.1, 9, 800, and inaudible. Copy all, Sarmat 2. We have written down all the data. For page 39, course 1 and 2 tests were underway. Copy all. And Sudan test was also underway. Copy. Copy all, Sarmat. We are building the attitude right now. Sarmat, at the end of this compass, at 17:18, we will discuss what we'll do during the next compass that will start at 18:29. Deactivate and activate all COM assets from PK. And don't forget to
send GEF4 and PEPA1 command. Manual control test will be performed during the next compass, that is page 45, step 1. And EKV inhibit on the same page is at 18:32:00. How copy? Copy all. Also, for your information, per page 41, satellite attitude or satellite time is 18:41 through 18 inaudible. Come again? I did not quite catch that. 17:41, 18:01. That is the satellite time. 17:41, 18:01. That is a good copy. And we're standing by for the next measurement. Moscow Sarmat 2, I'm ready to report the next measurement for you. We are ready to copy. Inaudible.
Delta 1. Давление БО 821.
BO pressure is 821.
Давление ТО
Inaudible.
843. Delta 1.
25:47. Inaudible.
Принято, замер записали.
Copy all. We have copied all the measurements. And everything is nominal. Copy. Sarmat 2. Moscow Sarmat 1.
So again, the crew now in space. You can hear them running through a number of different system checks on board the Soyuz. We are going to take a couple more hashtag Ask NASA questions. This one from Gurman wanted to know, does NASA ever answer the hashtag Ask NASA questions? And I can definitively say yes, Gurman, yes we do. Our next one comes from Harvard Elementary. Some fourth grade students wanted to know, what do astronauts do for entertainment while in space? It's actually much cushier now to be an astronaut than it was even years ago. The astronauts have access to the internet while they're up there, so they also have books. They can read things online. We have TV and movies made available for them. They also have several instruments usually on board the space station, so plenty of ways to stay entertained while they're spending very long durations in space. Our next question comes from Chris. Wanted to know, how long does it take to train to go to space? It depends on the mission. For most of these astronauts that are going up to do about 6 months to a year in space, they'll spend about 2 years training just for that mission. So to become an astronaut, you'll go through a few years of kind of astronaut 101 basic training, and then once you do get assigned, it takes about 2 years. And that's training not only here in Houston, but all over the world. They'll spend a lot of time over in Russia training on the Russian systems, especially if they're going to fly on one of these Soyuz spacecraft, but also in places like Japan and different countries in Europe for the different systems on board the station managed by those different countries. Mrs. Melcher's class wanted to know, why is the launch in Kazakhstan and not UAE, Russia, or USA? Well, it goes back to where the former Soviet Union built all of their launch facilities. It was actually built in Kazakhstan while it was still part of that country. And after that, when it became the Russian Federation, they still use all of the same infrastructure, and they work with the government of Kazakhstan to use it. And that's where the Soyuz launches from. We don't currently have human-capable vehicles launching from the USA, but that's all about to change once our commercial crew vehicles come online from providers Boeing and SpaceX within the next year. So you'll be seeing more launches of people to the International Space Station from different locations than ever before. Next up, we have one from Sophia who wanted to know what memorable items are the astronauts bringing into space. It differs from each of them. They do get a small allotment typically to bring some items up with them to the International Space Station. Most of those are kept private, but we do know that inside of the Soyuz spacecraft today, there was a zero-G indicator, so basically a small toy hung above the crew members that indicates when they're in microgravity, and it was a plush, sparkly unicorn from the commander Oleg Skripochka's daughter. And Hazza Ali Al-Mansouri, making his first trip into space, also was able to tell reporters that he had a small plush camel from his children that he's carrying up into space as well. So they do get a small allotment, not a lot as you can imagine, as it is fairly difficult to pack everything into a tight space, and all of the important stuff goes first. Our next question comes from Eric, wanted to know where along the journey do the rocket's falling debris disintegrate? Is it upon entering the Earth's atmosphere? Not all of the pieces of the rockets typically disintegrate. Some will actually make the re-entry back down to Earth's ground. That's one of the main reasons why the Russians chose Kazakhstan, is there are very vast stretches of uninhabited land where you're not going to have to worry about those rockets coming down in anyone's backyard. That's also why in America we typically launch over bodies of water right now, either from the Kennedy Space Center on the coast of Florida or even from the Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia, as you can keep that water clear and then it's just going to fall down into the ocean. Our next one comes from Matt, who wanted to know, with the station crew about to have a crew of 9, what are the chances of a 4-a-side space football game going on with the 9th acting as a referee? I would say the chances are pretty slim, but they do have some balls on board the station. I know they have a soccer ball and typically have a football, so you never know sometimes what these astronauts will get up to. So stay tuned. I will say follow their social media accounts if you want to get really deep insights into what it's like to live in space. All of the astronauts, most of the cosmonauts and the international crew members, like Luca Parmitano, very active on Twitter when they have some free time, bringing the entire world along for these journeys while they are up there. Our next question comes from M7MDS91, wanted to know, is there any future plans to increase the number of crew on Soyuz? There's no plans to increase the number of crew on Soyuz. It is a 3-seater, and that's what it's going to remain. But once we start flying those commercial crew vehicles I talked about, those hold 4. So you will see an increase in the total size of the population on board the International Space Station from 6 all the way up to 7. And we're also working on finding a new permanent place for that 7th crew member to sleep once they are on board. So I know we had a lot of questions earlier about sleep quarters with the 9 people today. 6 of them will have their own sleep quarters. 3 will be kind of temporarily camping out in different modules. But eventually, once we head up to 7 crew members, there will be a 7th crew cabin added on board the station. Our next one comes from Cassidy, who wanted to know, do they all speak the same language on board, or is there a language that they speak where they can all communicate? Yes, there is. While they're on board the Soyuz spacecraft, they all speak Russian, so all of our crew members go through some pretty intensive Russian language training along with the international astronauts riding aboard, and that's just to they're having to talk directly to Russian flight controllers. Most of the crew members will also speak English, but there's usually a bevy of languages spoken on board the International Space Station. The primary 2 are Russian and English. And then our last one for right now comes from Bubbles. Wanted to know, how do astronauts remain fit in space? Asked by an 8-year-old. Well, 8-year-old Bubbles, it comes from working out 2.5 hours every single day. For now, though, we're getting a treat. We're getting some replays from that launch. Again, the Soyuz lifted off today at 8:57 a.m. Central Time. This morning, 9:57 a.m. over on the East Coast. We're actually over in the next day in Baikonur.
видишь, королевский крест называется. Все 4 ступени вокруг.
All right, and those were all of our launch replays.